Hello to all you Patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 224 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the number one live podcast in Canada. We're recording on April 27th, 2020.
Hi, my name is Gavin. I'm still essential, but spending my off days tending my new Boogaloo herb garden instead of baking bread like everyone else. Mostly because the store is still going to have no flour.
Hi, I'm Benny. I'm an Orthodox Jew, an essential worker, and recreational shooter.
I'm Andrew, and I feel left out. I'm not an essential worker, but I'm still going to work, and that insofar as like I sit at my desk in my house and pretend to do work while I pretend to get paid.
It's pretty much all I do.
We'd love to hear.
It's just not in my house.
Yeah, I'm not going outside. Do you know how peoply it is out?
A lot less peoply than it usually is, that's for sure.
Oh, it was a nice day today. It was very peoply.
Yeah.
Well, I
saw
went
many. Sorry, go ahead, Benny.
I was going to say I went to do a pickup from Walmart, and I was a little shocked to see the line almost around the building, and all the pickup spots were empty when I got there. So I don't really know why people are going to stores still so much. Like you said before, you do the pickup, right? You don't even go into store. But I went into Metro today, so yeah.
It is super nice where I am today. It's like 14 degrees and sunny and there's no clouds. So like when I went on my government approved 1 hour outdoor exercise, I definitely saw a lot of other people also getting some yard time in.
I feel like you have more freedom if you're in prison than you do at home.
I mean, I'd probably have to do less cooking if I were in prison.
Access to recreational drugs, although they wouldn't classify them as recreational at that stage.
That's right, they're essential.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
anyway, we'd love to hear your feedback about the show. Please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email us directly, feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. You can find the show on the internet.
Check out the podcast also on Facebook at facebook.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast and Instagram at instagram.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast.
We need your help. To support the show, visit patreon.com/CTP and become a Patreon. You can get a better quality version of the show for just $1 an episode. The more you pledge, the better the rewards are. You can also show that you're not a communist and buy a CPP t-shirt for just $19.99 plus shipping and theft. Visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com, our homepage, and follow the link on the right.
All right, it's time for What Are We Drinking? That's my favorite episode. It's where I ask everybody on the show tonight what they're drinking. We'll start with Benny. Benny, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking Corona out of a Steam Whistle Stein. I think it's called a Stein even if it's glass, right?
Yeah.
I'm not really up to the
sure.
culture.
It's definitely a glass.
Yeah.
In Stein-ish shape.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it is actually like meets the technical requirements of a Stein because there's probably like some sort of like German purity law of 1066 that applies or some other.
Yeah. The subsection 3 where it specifically refers to the glass and not the making of the beer, which is its own thing. Yeah. That'd be the German way.
Yeah. But I mean, like the purity law of 1066 is actually like a thing in alcohol production.
You're only allowed 4 things in your beer.
Yeah.
So according to the wikis, beer stein, or simply stein, is an English term for either traditional beer mugs made out of stoneware or specifically ornamental beer mugs that are usually sold as souvenirs or collectibles. In German, the word stein means stone and is not used to refer to beverage container.
So it may or may not be a Stein. That does not clear things up for me. Gavin, what are you drinking?
I don't know. All I know is that just blew my mind. That in German, it doesn't even mean a glass. You learn something new every day. I am drinking Havana Club and Coke Zero.
You're one lime away from a liberation.
Yeah. Well, I'm feeling a little piratey today, so you know.
Well, you definitely need a lime then. Prevents the scurvy.
Yeah. It's important in this time. You know. Don't want to end up in the hospital for scurvy. You get the corona.
That's right. And I am drinking James Ready because I'm beginning to run out of beer that I bought, and I'm down to the cheap beer. Also, I'm not sure if I can bring myself to drink any more of the Coors Original. It's not Banquet, and that makes me sad.
Yeah, well. Tough times all over.
Question on the internet.
Uh-oh.
Is it more difficult to do curbside pickup if it's kosher or halal?
Yes. The issue comes when for certain foods we will not allow for substitutions. But that's as far as it is. If we know the product's kosher, then we're not worried about tampering or anything, and it's going to.
Yeah, I mean, especially if it's like kosher chicken or something, it's sealed, right? Like,
right.
It's pretty obvious if it's been tampered with, which would be obvious even if it wasn't kosher, right?
Exactly. Although I wish I could easily get kosher chicken in London, but yes, picking up kosher food is it's not that hard. I know the product's kosher, so it's okay.
I have an easy solution for your chicken problem, Benny. Raise your own chickens.
So
can you do that?
In London, apparently not, but doves or pigeons are allowed.
Yeah, I don't know about pigeon. Doves probably make for okay eating.
Yeah. I have a local friend who can ritually slaughter birds, and he's offered me anything from quail to peacock. So, yeah,
I would totally have a roast peacock.
I want like a kosher peacock, Andrew.
I want like an 18-pound peacock in the oven.
Okay, we now have a new menu for that that Saturday night when eventually we can have it.
Is that a thing? Is that,
I mean, you'll be able to feed everybody that way, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems to me like a peacock is about the same size as a turkey, right? Like it seems to me like a fair-sized bird.
Once you get past all the feathers, then it might be.
Right, like it's not
only
really
one
like
way
a
to
super
find out.
massive turkey, but I'm okay.
Yeah,
so we need to investigate more and possibly get a peacock for reasons for science, really.
For science, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
A dove's probably okay eating. I'm not sure about the rat of the sky though. That doesn't seem.
Every time he suggests that's what goes through my head. It's
but I mean, like
it's
I think the problem
different
is
if you raise it to eat it.
Yeah,
but also it's still a flying rat.
Yeah, like you're not going to eat ones that you catch like in the wild and downtown London. But yeah, if you were to raise them and they haven't been eating garbage their whole life, they're probably okay.
Yeah.
It would just be a mental thing you have to overcome.
Yes. But I think right now the commitment to starting my own hatchery or raising my own birds is more than I'm willing to commit.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I mean, if you do pigeons, though, you'll be able to communicate with Marty and get on his internet.
Yes.
You could almost have like asynchronous communication at that point, which is still better than what Marty has most days.
Yeah.
All right, let's do the news. We are going to talk about the thing that was the big giant headline. Last weekend?
Yeah.
I think that was the 18th of April that they had the unfortunate series of incidents in Nova Scotia. I'm not gonna talk about the actual incidents because the police haven't released a lot of information, which is part of the thing that's irritating me about this. There's a pretty decent summary on the Toronto Star. Okay, that's the first time I've ever read that on the show.
Yeah, things you thought you'd never hear for $100.
Oh man, I had to bump the article about where I agreed with the NDP. Or no, the Green Party. I agreed with the Green Party about energy policy in Alberta. But it didn't make it into this week's show. So tune in next week to find out what kind of drugs I'm doing.
There's enough triggering things in this episode. Yeah,
it's all of the drugs.
Yeah.
You finally got your hands on a bushel of marijuana?
Actually, yes, but for entirely different reasons that you would not imagine, and I'm not willing to discuss on the air. But that's neither here nor there. Well, actually, it's there. But anyhow, tune in next week when I hope to have time in the show to talk about why I agree with the Green Party's plan for the Alberta energy economy.
Yeah.
That's a weird thing to say.
Yeah, even a broken clock is right twice a day.
So not talking about the actual massacre and shooting and tragic incidents, but more the armchair Monday morning quarterback kind of stuff of what went on with our federal law enforcement entity. I can't say I'm terribly impressed by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and how they handled this situation, and this is not a reflection, and I'm not making a reflection or comment on the individual officers involved or the actions of any individual members of any police services. But I feel like throughout the episode, I have a number of things that highlight an institutional failure within the federal police force. So we'll just dive right in with that little preface. Go ahead, Benny.
I was just gonna say, not like stepping back and knowing very little about the situation, because most of the time when these things happen, I don't even bother looking at news stories or.
That's kind of why I put it off for a week. Like I wanted to have some more information come out about this, and it's less speculative, but it's still like 2 weeks later, and it's still pretty speculative.
Well, and I think that's one of the things we kind of want to talk about today is that, you know, any other incident you have all of this information almost instantaneously, you know, coinciding. But like with this one, it's almost radio silence. And whatever information you do have coming out is kind of never really officially released. It's kind of a news source will say something, but there's very little given out by the, you know, official spokespeople. And when it is, as you'll hear later, it's not really correct, I guess, or it's outdated information, if you will.
Right. So
will.
The one thing that did come to mind when I first heard this is, or something I don't even know how it plays in, but the idea of having a national police force acting as a local police force. You can go anywhere in the United States and you will, and yes, it's a completely different kettle of fish, but you will never see the FBI acting as local law enforcement. They are a federal body and they act as such. They do not act as your local constable.
I mean, I am not a super well-traveled individual, particularly outside of North America. I imagine that you both have more world experience than I have, but it does raise an interesting point how we do policing in this country, and I know that it comes from like the before times when Britain ruled the world, and like the British South Africa police were a thing, but not just in South Africa, like in other parts of Africa. Like the BSAP was in both Rhodesias, like Rhodesia and Southern Rhodesia, as well as South Africa. They had the British East India Police, but they were never actually in East India. Right? Like So this kind of goes back to like this is one of those things that we got from our heritage as being a British colony 200 odd years ago, because we had the what was it before the Royal Canadian Mounted Police? It was the Northwest Mounted Police, something like this.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of a holdover that they've kept the name, even though like most of them don't ride horses anymore, and the uniform.
But I think there are other federal police forces that act in a similar capacity, like the Gendarmerie in France. They're a national police force that also act, at least in assistance with municipal police forces.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that to a degree, all federal police do cooperate. Like you'll sometimes, like in larger cities, have like a liaison officer and stuff like that, because sometimes like petty crimes involve people that are involved in more serious things and back and forth. And I know like the DEA, ATF, FBI all kind of work together, but not together.
They work together, but I don't think that's the point that Benny was getting at, where they're
they're not directly responsible. They're not directly responsible for like writing traffic citations in, you know, rural areas. Yeah.
No, and it's not even to say that this is a problem, but I think it is. I think a time to reevaluate how we do our policing. I
mean, it's just going to involve like reallocating funds to different branches of the police force and everything. So that
and in some cases, I think standing up police forces. Like look at Alberta. Alberta doesn't have a provincial level police force, and they only have 2 or 3 municipal police forces: Edmonton, Calgary, and like they might have one other.
Yeah.
And then the rest is all like the rest of their province is handled by the RCMP outside of like 2 or 3 major urban centers.
Yeah.
Sorry for everybody in Alberta. I'm sure the Albertan I know is watching right now, so I'm sure he's going to correct me on where the 3 police forces are. I'm sure it's Edmonton, Calgary, and one more.
I only know like Medicine Hat when it comes to like names that pop into my head from Alberta. So
I don't even know if they have their own police. And I think the interior of BC is a lot like that. Like they have a lot of municipal police forces on the coast, like in Vancouver, Victoria, Kelowna, but like into the interior, I don't think that they have a lot of municipal police forces. And the same for a lot of the other prairies and a lot of the Maritimes. I don't think they have a lot of municipal police forces. And like some provinces don't have provincial police forces. Looking at you, Alberta.
Right. So it could just be a symptom of growing up in the GTA where every Tom, Dick, and Harry have their own police force, and the OPP is on the highway at all times. So, you know, the idea of only ever seeing the Mounties, I think the one time I ever visited, Parliament, that may be why I'm coming from that angle.
Yeah, could be. And I think this is a point that we raised a while ago, or at least it was talked about on the show, with the whole Alberta separation thing. Oh, there we go. Doug on YouTube says Calgary, Edmonton, and Red Deer. See, I knew it was 3. I was even pretty close which one 3 it was. Yeah, I think we talked about this before, that if Alberta were to separate, what would they do? Because most of their policing is handled by, like, in terms of area of coverage, like the land mass, most of it is not covered by municipal police forces, it's covered by RCMP. So if Alberta were to do some sort of separation thing, they would need something different, because obviously RCMP wouldn't be doing it if they weren't part of the country.
Yeah. Apparently they also have something called Alberta Sheriffs.
Yes.
Is that like the Texas Rangers?
No, and
because if it is,
we have sheriffs in Ontario too, but sheriffs in Ontario like enforce bench warrants and like evict people from houses. They're not like riding around in horses with 6-shooters and like catching Jesse Jameses. What's the part of that? Jesse James eye?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. I think that might be part of the discussion there. Going into some of the things that I've recognized in the media over the last 2 weeks is potentially having been shortfalls of the RCMP. The first one being that the RCMP have not actually disclosed when they got their first 911 call. Again, there's been a couple of decent timelines put together. The one in the Toronto Star, surprisingly good. Not sure if it's accurate, but surprisingly well documented.
Well, if you're going to make up the news, do a good job.
Well, I mean, they were thorough. I'll give them that. CBC has the original call having been reported at approximately 10:30 p.m. on Saturday night, and now the RCMP has revised their story that the officers arrived on the first scene at approximately 10:30 p.m. on Saturday night. The majority of the action, of course, taking place on Saturday morning for everybody in podcast land that wasn't paying attention to the news, although how you could be paying attention to the news and not have seen this covered in some way in the last week and a bit is baffling. So,
wait, is the map that I'm looking at? Because like I said, I didn't look at anything, so I'm like coming to all this information brand new. Is the map that I'm seeing on the page with their quote unquote timeline? That's where all the attacks happened. Like he started off near the like economy, Bass River, and then he went halfway up the province and back down again.
Yeah, not completely back down again, but there's there's definitely a hairpin turn there.
Yeah. Yeah,
but
like they're saying something like 16 individual crime scenes or more. I mean, it's hard to,
When I envision 16 crime scenes, I'm thinking like, one
house next to it.
Bathurst and Finch, Shepherd and whatever, but like not completely different.
Oh, yeah, these are.
Yeah, different municipalities, different parts of the province. And I mean, like, it's traveling down a highway in Nova Scotia, so it's not like he was, like, going all over the place. He was traveling down a highway, and just that happened to be the communities that he was driving through. So there's definitely a little bit of concern in my mind off the bat with that. The RCMP has not released when the actual the original 911 call came in and how that transpired, because, again, that's, like, basic information that you think would be released, because what's the harm in releasing that information?
Yeah.
Now they're saying that the first officers on the scene were arriving at 10:30 rather than having been called at 10:30. Then, of course, the majority of the information coming out Saturday morning between roughly 8 and 10 a.m. For some reason, this is in the National Post, officials can't explain why emergency alert didn't go out as gunmen tore through Nova Scotia. Like I said, National Post. We have a whole Amber Alert system where we have presidential alerts on your cell phone. That's the Android terminology for the override alert that they send out that wakes everybody's phone up regardless of what you're doing, to tell you like that there's an Amber Alert, some kid is missing, or some other like state of emergency broadcast system. The thing that wakes up everybody's cell phone and overrides all your settings and disturbs you and your coworkers and your children, and then that system. The RCMP neglected to use that for some reason for 20 hours.
I mean, unfortunately, that seems to be the norm with that system. I mean, as someone that has some, I guess, interaction with it through the search and rescue stuff, like, I definitely get alerts for missing people a lot faster when we get call-outs or potential call-outs that don't even make it to the Amber Alert thing. And it's like, you know, why wouldn't you use that? Like, that's exactly what this thing is for. So,
well, and I wonder how many people's lives may have been saved had this alert gone out properly. Like, had they warned people, even at 8 a.m., instead of like making the Twitter post at whatever time they did. I think the Twitter post was about 9 a.m. that they said that was an active shooter.
I mean,
but
that's the other thing. Like, who's following Twitter just in case something bad happens? Like, I'm not saying don't put it out on that platform, but like, that's maybe what you do after you use the Amber Alert system.
Yeah, or make it one button because it's the same number of characters.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems to me that this was a massive oversight. That something went wrong with this system that we've paid a lot of money to have.
Yeah.
And has generally been ineffective, and frequently comes out with late or inaccurate information. We have the system. Like, this seems like the opportune time to use it, and it seems like if they would have sent this information out, more people may have been aware of what was going on. And part of this is in the RCMP not alerting people to the fact that the individual in question was traveling in what appeared to be a marked RCMP cruiser and wearing a realistic-looking RCMP uniform. Which, there's a lot of questions around that. I don't really care because, like, the media is all like, we don't know how we got a police uniform. Well, I got news for you, man. Like, police uniforms are not...
They're not hard to get.
Yeah, it's like, well, you can't buy them on eBay. And it's like, yeah, you don't need to buy them on eBay. You can literally just go on the internet and look for, like, Class A uniforms. It's not...
Yeah, and then you go into any local surplus store, they've got all of the patches from all over the world for any police or military uniform you want. It's really not difficult.
Yeah, like, I've been in warehouses that they use for making films with just, like, rows and rows of different uniforms for different police agencies for filming. It's really not hard to make. And they don't need to be perfect. It just needs to look like a police uniform, which, I mean...
Because
so you got to get the right color blue?
How many average? But even that, how many average citizens would recognize unless standing next to a different officer? In which case, I would just assume the one guy's uniform is older than the others, that the color is off.
Right, yeah, and that's the thing is, like, how many people know what the uniform standards are for their local police or their provincial?
That guy has the wrong color epaulets, if you even know what epaulets are, right? Like, nobody's gonna.
And that's what I mean. Like, unless you're up on all the dress regs for all of the different police, whatever. He looks like a cop, right? He's wearing clothes he looks like a cop. He's got a gun. He's got a belt. He's got a badge.
Yeah. Hey, you guys walked through an army base and like had people think you were a unit that
allegedly.
you weren't. Allegedly. So, like, it's not hard to fool people, even who should know the regs.
Well, exactly. Part of that is, I think, as in this case, you just got to look like you know what you're doing.
Exactly.
I just want to make one comment quickly before we get too far past it about the ambulance alert thing. Like, it's weird that it seems that the barrier to entry to, like, send out an alert is so high, yet they still make so many mistakes when it does go out. Like, you think with all the hoops that you have to jump through to actually get the Amber Alert out, that when it does go out, like 47 hours too late, that it would be correct at least. But no, it's not.
I would hope so, but it seems to not be. And I don't really understand how that system works, and I don't understand why it's so, like, poorly managed or so poorly implemented.
Yeah.
But again, like, whether the call came in at 10:30 or whether the first units arrived on the scene at 10:30 p.m. on Saturday, And the fact that they started to like make press statements at 8 a.m. on Sunday morning and Twitter posting at 9, and then they were waiting till like 10 or 11 in the morning on Sunday to release the information that he was driving, that he had been driving in what appeared to be a marked cruiser, and the way to tell was the number on the cruiser because it looked that realistic.
Yeah. That's all
Like,
stuff that could have gone out way earlier.
And again, like I feel like that's not a failing of the individual officers or whoever is responsible for that, but I feel like this is an institutional failure of the RCMP, that this is information that should have gone out, that could have potentially saved someone's life, and there was no reason to not send this information out.
Yeah, it's not like, you know, they're looking for a guy that's not actively doing anything and they don't want to give it away. This guy is an active shooter. They knew a lot of stuff about him by that time. They could have put that out there and, certainly saved lives, I think.
Oh, if it saves one life, right? Like, how many times have we heard that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in this case, it actually would, right? That's the difference.
Maybe, maybe not. In the Chronicle Herald, I have a interesting article. Bullet holes in fire hall. RCMP shootout leaves Onslow woman in fright. I don't particularly care about this woman or her husband or the fact that they got scared and hid in their bedroom. They live across the street from the fire hall. They're the subject of the story. They're not the part of the story that is interesting to me.
Yeah, it's sort of glossed over.
So, allegedly, what appears to have been an RCMP cruiser with 2 officers pulled up to a fire hall that was being used as an emergency command center and registration center for their local community, where another RCMP vehicle was parked out front with an RCMP member in the fire hall at the time. And in my very best Danny DeVito, then I started blasting.
Yeah.
Because apparently these 2 officers got out of their vehicle and like lit up the fire hall, and then got back in their vehicle and drove away. And fortunately, no one was injured or killed, with the exception of a fire truck that I guess the engine has been damaged and they broke a windshield or something. But I mean,
well,
I'm glad that no one was injured, but also like positive target identification, people.
I mean, I have heard some rumors, and I don't know whether it's true or not, that the other RCMP officer that was injured, this is how they got injured.
You know what? A strong possibility, and that was my very first thing that I thought when I saw this. Somebody sent me this article, and I read through it, and the very first thing I sent back was, this is blue on blue. Somebody accidentally pulled a piece on somebody else that they thought wasn't a cop and accidentally was a cop, and they got into a little firefight with one another. So you've got like a blue on blue situation where you have 2 actual cops, or I guess in this case 3 actual cops, shooting at one another.
Yeah. So I mean that's all, hearsay, but I mean the potential is there because there was no positive target identification. I mean they did light up the fire hall. That is a fact. There is a bunch
of bullet holes in the side of the fire hall.
Yeah.
I mean, like, also really bad shot placement because there's like a bunch of bullet holes in the side of a fire hall.
Yeah, their group size is a little large.
Alarming.
Yeah. So I mean, RCMP, if you guys need a little assistance, we know some guys that might be able to shrink that group size. Just saying. So
I am interested to see what comes out of this. The Serious Incident Response Team. So that's the Nova Scotia watchdog that is responsible for any police-involved deaths or severe injuries or other serious events. They have a whole purview jurisdictional thing. They're like an oversight agency. Anything that they're involved in, I'm curious to see what they end up reporting on this once they get more information, because right now they can't provide a lot of information because the incident is still in its early stages and the investigation is still ongoing, of course. However, there's a big but at the end of this. The interim director of CERT acknowledged that 2 RCMP officers did discharge their firearms at the scene. So it seems to me like the RCMP lit up the fire hall on purpose. Now, whether or not that was like accidentally on purpose or on purpose, I think that that remains to be seen, and I would like to understand what caused that to transpire. But again, reading through this and the related articles and the Facebook posts from people in the area, it sounds to me like blue on blue. It sounds to me like they spotted an RCMP car that they thought wasn't an RCMP car, and they saw somebody they thought wasn't a cop, and they decided to light the place up.
Yeah.
So my question starts with the guy who's being shot at. What did he do? Why didn't he return fire? Like, I don't care who's shooting at me. You shooting at me, I'm going to shoot back at you. If I was in that
Well, I
position.
mean, maybe he was the
There's
one with
nothing to
clear
say
head.
they didn't.
Yeah, that's true. But maybe they were the one with the clear head and realized it was like his own guys shooting at him and he was in a place that was safe, or he'd already been shot and couldn't return fire.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts. I mean, and that's part of the problem with the lack of information coming out. Like, you have this weird story that comes out that allows us to speculate wildly and not in a favorable light.
Right.
Well, and that's part of my concern with this, and I will have to keep an eye on this, because I'm sure eventually the CERT people will release some sort of a unofficial vetted story 6 months from now. But
quietly, when no one's
looking
attention.
except for us, and our 4 listeners on the internet will tune in and they'll know our version of the truth.
Yeah.
And I want to thank all 4 of you for listening tonight, although only 3 of you have left comment. Oh, no, 4th one left a comment. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, guys.
Also, Patrick, pump harder. He's doing a workout.
Feel the burn.
That's right.
I mean, that also applies to the reloading comment, too. Pump harder.
That's true. Also, yeah, Daniel, more 223. Make more 223.
Do not feel the burn. Reloading wrong.
Yeah.
No, if it burns, that's how you know it's working.
Yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of, if you feel the burn, you know it's working. The RCMP has a fairly good idea, in quotes. The guns used in the Nova Scotia mass shooting were acquired illegally. So, shout out to CP24 for calling this a mass shooting incorrectly. Because again, how many crime scenes were we up to, Gavin? 16? 17?
At least 16, yeah. So yeah, like, it is, but it isn't.
I mean,
Rampage.
I feel like if you get in your Rampage. I think I'm gonna keep calling it the Nova Scotia incident, because everybody knows what I mean. Because it's not fair to call it. I don't think it meets the criteria of mass shooting, because like firebombing people's houses, not a mass shooting. I heard there may have been some cases of some stabbery going on. Again, stabbery is not mass shooting.
Yeah, so massacre, incident, shit show. I mean, these are all terms that are interchangeable, really.
I know. I just don't like the media spinning this as a shooting issue when
there's a lot more. Yeah,
more people. I think were. I shouldn't say that. I don't think we know how many people were killed via which means, and I don't think that it really matters. Because crazy people be crazy, but also, dude didn't just go around shooting people. So let's.
Someone we have comments killing spree killing. I think is a very
yeah. Andrew's got a good point on the YouTube. Spree killing is a good name. It was definitely a killing spree.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's part of the other thing is, like, it seems that he knew some of the people, but maybe not all of them. Like, there's a lot going on. And when all of the details finally come out and they finish their investigation, and in 6 to 12 to 18 to 24 months, whenever that's going to be, I hope that we get some details, and I hope that they do a better job of this. But like, so many people have already jumped to so many conclusions. The doctors for gun control people are already out calling for guns. Trudeau, we'll get to in a bit, is already calling for everybody's gun. The RCMP has taken days to answer a question. Bill Blair, Minister of Public Safety, Bill Blair, simply refuses to acknowledge whether or not the guns may or may not have been illegal. Yeah, exactly. I agree with Benny's offspring. Screaming at Bill Blair is the appropriate answer. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, hopefully they don't do like a Las Vegas thing and just like sweep it all under the rug and never talk about it again.
I mean, if we could just not talk about the banning the guns part that's coming, I mean, that'd be one thing, but I would like to understand.
Yeah. Absolutely,
where
I
all of
would.
the failings of this were, because it seems like every time a story comes out, it's like another thing that was like, well, part of this at least could have been prevented, or part of it could
Yeah.
have been a little bit less bad.
Well, and so I mean, one of the things, because a lot of people are going to take this as like, now this is the largest spree killing or whatever you want to call it in Canada, and the last largest one was the Polytechnic event. And after that event, the police sort of looked at the incident and changed their tactics surrounding it. And fortunately, things like this don't happen in Canada that often. And when they do, we need to have a critical eye and look at where these shortcomings are, which I think we're trying to do, and hopefully everyone is. And again,
I'd really like it if the government would.
yeah,
but I don't think that they're going to.
Change tactics, and that's part of what's been successful in. I mean, I don't want to say necessarily preventing, but lessening
Reducing?
some of these.
Yeah.
Responding
in
to
Canada is the way that the police have responded, and if there's a better way to do things that you know about now after having critical eyes examining all the pieces of this, then we should absolutely be doing that. And I think that's important. And if they don't do that, then that's even more tragic, because then all of these people absolutely died for nothing.
So let me go into some of this firearm stuff. So Chief Superintendent Chris Leather, this came out this past Wednesday, so that'd be April the 22nd. I don't have the video, although there is a video in the show notes. I just can't make it play in YouTube for some reason. So, whatever. Internet problems, Superintendent says, we have a fairly good idea that, in Canada at least, he didn't have a firearms acquisition certificate. And he goes on later on in the press conference to repeat the whole FAC thing, which leads me to two problems. Why is the RCMP talking about firearms acquisition certificates which went out of style in 1995 to be replaced with our current system of PAL?
At least his statement was accurate.
It's only been 25 years since you could get one of those. Also, does this mean that he had like a permit somewhere else that was not Canada? Because why would you specifically say that we have a good idea that in Canada at least he doesn't have an FAC? Do you think he has an FAC like in Bermuda or Jamaica?
Well, if he has one for the States,
I can keep doing the Beach Boys songs.
If he has one for the States and then he quote unquote legally acquired them in the States, then they're going to point the finger there. Anywhere where they don't have to point the finger themselves. So the next place they're going to point the finger, if not the place of purchase, would be CBSA. So border agents should have caught that.
Border agents probably should have caught that, and that is an article, just one more down in the stack there on the Post Millennial, which doesn't give us a lot of details, but there is a statement from Superintendent Darren Campbell, unsurprisingly of the RCMP. There was a press conference. He went over the timeline. He went through a bunch of stuff, and according to Campbell, the gunman had a significant number of weapons, including the gun that he took from the RCMP member that he shot and killed earlier in the day. And at least one weapon has been traced to Canada. The other weapons were likely obtained from the United States. So conceivably, he has 3, 4, possibly more firearms of some description. So, okay, he got one off of an RCMP member that he killed and took their gun. There's no gun law in the world that's going to stop that. If you kill the agents of the state, who are the only people who are permitted to have weapons, you can't do anything to stop that. Murder is already illegal. Stabbing, bludgeoning. What's the thing where you beat somebody to death with your hands?
Saturday night.
I don't know. That one, all of these methods of killing a police officer and taking their gun are all already illegal. Taking a police officer's gun, also illegal. Using guns to kill people with, also illegal. There is no new gun law that will stop that one from happening. You just, there is not any way to prevent that from happening. There's probably some policy stuff that the RCMP could be doing to lessen their chances of having it happen.
Yeah.
But, if you surprise attack, if you ambush a police officer and kill them via some other means, you run them over, you stab them, you bludgeon them, you You somehow incapacitate them and steal their firearm. Like,
Yeah,
so long as the police are armed, there's no way to prevent that.
Yeah.
There's mitigation things, and there's things they can do to lessen the chances of it happening, but like, I mean, I know the RCMP and other government agencies lose a lot of guns. Almost 1,000 guns between 2004, 2006, and 2018, something like that. Like the number is like 850 guns in like a 10-year period.
Who hasn't left a shotgun and/or grenade launcher and/or sidearm on the roof of their car or in a backpack and just kind of forgot it was there? Like, who hasn't done that?
I know, and I get, but like, so long as the police have guns, criminals are going to find ways to take them.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that we should disarm the police in case there's some like tinfoil hatty person. I don't want them to go around asking if I've got a license for that gun, mate. But I also I feel like it's entirely reasonable that our police officers should be armed. But I also feel like it's entirely reasonable that anyone who's not a criminal should be able to be armed. And
even then, I'm willing to say that like disarming criminals is still an infringement. Although I'm okay with that infringement.
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain level of infringement. I don't think we're going to get into the detail of like where that falls today, but
yeah, but I mean, they're probably armed anyways because they're criminals and they don't give a shit about laws. So,
well, it's almost like this guy that probably got more than one firearm from some other means than legally purchasing it in Canada, or in the case of the one that he obtained that was traced to having been in Canada first. So I feel like that means stolen from someone, kind of like how they stole it from a cop. They stole it from someone who owned guns legally that was not a cop.
I'm just curious, though, about the ones that they did get from the U.S. Do you think they came through that region in the Quebec area?
I mean, that's a strong possibility.
I mean, especially given the geographics of where all of this happened. I mean, I don't know. I'm spitballing here.
I feel like it is a strong possibility, and I would, again, in 6, 12, 18, 24 months, 3 years, however long it takes for this to come out, eventually, at some point, during some sort of, I imagine, court proceeding, we are eventually going to get the details that the RCMP has on where these arms were obtained from. I am not thrilled to see how that plays out, but I would like to know. It doesn't do anything in this case, but it, again, mitigating strategy for the future. If we know guns are being smuggled into the country, then the problem is not licensed gun owners. The problem is not gun stores in Canada. The problem is not our storage laws. The problem is our border security, which, whether it came from there or not, I still think is a problem because we have poor border security in this country.
I'm just curious, who was the last minister in charge of border security?
I believe that would be Mr. Blair, the Right Honorable Bill Blair of Toronto Police fame.
Oh,
is he Right Honorable or just Honorable? I don't remember what his actual honorific is.
I'm not using it either way.
I mean, that's fair. On the note of the
clear that he didn't do his job.
Well, I mean, time and time again, but on the note of the legally obtained firearms piece, the father of the mass killer is apparently heartbroken over this instance and possibly has been hospitalized and or medicated. But the piece that I'm interested in the touching sob story of this family's affairs, is like these people don't sound like they're completely all. I don't know. What's the Nova Scotia equivalent of being a couple of fries short of a Happy Meal? A few cod short of a fishing fleet? Like, I don't know. Like, but I feel like whatever it is in Nova, like these guys are short a couple because they have a bunch of weird property dealings and they have signed for one another's houses and they sold one another's houses and they didn't get the profits and they beat one another and they go on vacation in Cuba and they get into fights and they chain RCMP cars into parking lots at night, and they all sound like they have a lot of issues. But the issue that I want to bring up from the particular article in the Chronicle Herald is that the father says that I lost my spot in the story. There it is. The killer's father describes as being beaten to whatever. So he told this other outlet that is predominantly satire, which there's a whole other thing with this Frank magazine thing. But anyway, The father said that the son had a hell of a gun collection, and if the RCMP had obtained a search warrant, he wonders if this could have been averted. He wouldn't have been able to do it if he didn't have firearms. Okay, so Buddy had an assault charge in 2002 and a weapons prohibition that may or may not have been still prohibiting him from owning weapons at this point in time. It seems reasonable to me to assume that if the shitbag in question had an assault charge in 02 and he got any sort of a prohibition from owning firearms, that he shouldn't be able to be in possession of a PAL, or as the RCMP call it now, an FAC, because I guess we're bringing it back. Cue the Justin Timberlake, we're bringing FAC back. I can't really, it doesn't rhyme.
What if we keep just stepping backwards a little bit further to the point where we can own machine guns?
Again,
I'm down for that.
I should absolutely be able to go into the Hudson's Bay catalog and order a machine gun.
Yeah. I mean, who shouldn't be able to order a Tommy gun or two?
Well, then maybe finally I'll be able to own an MP5. That's all. That's all I want. MP5. Doesn't have to be HK, okay? It can be one of those Turkish knockoffs. I'm fine with that.
I'm not. It's some better standards, Benny.
Yeah.
Okay, in my dream world where machine guns are legal, I'm still not rich, so...
That's your problem.
Your dream world. Yeah, we found that. We have identified the source of the issue.
Yeah. Dream bigger. Dream bigger.
Yeah, like HK big. Yeah. Flex on the pores. Come on, it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if this guy's dad was really worried, like the RCMP has I hesitate to even call it a tip line. They have a number that you can call to report a public safety concern.
Yeah.
So if you know somebody that you think has guns
and shouldn't
have guns, or could be a threat to themselves or others, or is illegally possessing those guns, or is not complying with all of our various laws and regulations around the ownership of those guns, there's a number that you can call, and the RCMP or your local constabulary will just show up and be like, hey, do you have guns here? Oh, you have. Okay, well, we're going to take those now.
So I think we can actually squarely point a finger at the spin doctors for gun control and say it's their fault for perpetuating false information that it is very difficult to notify the police when someone is in possession of an illegal firearm.
I mean, yes, I think that's fair. I also don't think it's going to do anything.
Oh, no.
Again, the onus is on people like this guy's father to actually dial the number.
But how many people know that, though? That's
part of it. Is the liberals currently are trying to say that we need red flag laws and all of this and that in Canada because that's the popular thing to call them these days. Except the fact that all of the other things they say that we need to have that we already have red flag laws where if you call the damn police and tell them that you think someone has guns they're not supposed to have, or they have them legally and they're a threat to themselves or someone else, you pick up the damn phone and you call.
Yeah. I want to thank the Albertan for coming up with tonight's show title. We're going with One Sail Short of a Schooner.
Hear, hear.
Yeah, that's the one sail short of a schooner. That is the equivalent of being a couple of fries short of a Happy Meal in Nova Scotia, at least according to the #1 podcast in Canada.
A couple of slices short of a donair.
Oh, come on. I already got schooner and I can't spell donair. Also, I was really when we were out east, man, I kind of disappointed by donairs, to be honest. Sorry, East Coast people. Didn't really flip my skirt. Or I guess put wind in my sails. Is that a more nautically expression?
Maybe because you two are one sail short of a schooner.
Yeah, I don't know. Donairs were all right, but I mean, it didn't really I don't ever need to have another one. It's not like a thing that I'm like, oh god, that was like a life-changing experience.
I don't know. I love them. It's that sweet onion sauce.
Yeah, but you can literally just get sweet onion sauce on anything.
Yeah, it's different out there.
I don't know, man. All right, on to the big bit of this, I think. So the Prime Minister immediately went out on Monday morning after this event. Remember, this started on a Saturday night, got finished on a Sunday when the RCMP shot Captain Shitbag, and then the Prime Minister went out on Monday and said, we should ban all the guns. We were in the process of banning the guns before Parliament took a little break due to Corona. So we should definitely ban all the guns now. We definitely need to ban military-style assault weapons. I'm paraphrasing because I don't and ah nearly as much as the Prime Minister does. I recognize I have some verbal tics, but not nearly as bad as that man.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Do we even have a list of weapons used in this attack?
Doesn't matter. We got to do it for feelings, bro. If it saves just one life.
Right, but okay, if we want to like look at back and like fix the mistakes we made with our previous stuff.
No, it's all the conservatives' fault because
technique and
they want to weaken.
Do anything?
No, Benny, that doesn't
No,
matter.
we got to
The
weaken the gun laws.
The conservatives wanted to weaken gun laws, and it's all the conservatives' fault. It's all Harper's fault that this even happened. I mean, it doesn't matter that the guy murdered a police officer.
Harper is the devil.
And stole a gun. More gun laws would definitely
an elbow mover.
Definitely solve this problem from ever happening again.
I don't think that it would, and I know you're being facetious, but like, I mean, that is literally the article that I put in the show notes from the National Post. As gun control debate looms, no answers yet on what firearms were used in Nova Scotia mass killing. So, like, but the public safety minister has already come out and said that we need to ban military-style assault weapons again.
But that's the problem when the dickhead gets up and talks. Like, he starts talking, he says there are a number of people in this country that want to strengthen gun laws, which is true, there are. And then he says that there are a number of people that want to weaken them, which also is true, there are. But, like, he doesn't say anything about the people that are just like, whatever, just leave them the fuck alone. They're fine where they are. Which I would say is probably a large chunk of the population. Oh, no, I'm for just getting rid of them altogether because they're stupid and they don't actually do anything. But there's a large segment of the population that just wants to leave them the fuck alone. And he doesn't mention that. So it's either strengthening it or weakening it. There is no middle ground with his argument. It's, you know, we have to do this because it'll save just one life, even though we all know it won't because we're rational beings.
I mean, I've kind of been building up to this for the last, like, 35 minutes or so. What gun law could we possibly propose that would stop any of these events from having transpired? It's not illegal to own cars. It's not illegal to own knives. It's not illegal to obtain
decommissioned police vehicles.
Well, I'm trying to like find the right words for the uniform piece, but it's not like it is not illegal to possess the components of a police uniform. It is not illegal to like
even assemble them into a police.
Right. It's not illegal to do all of these things. And it is illegal to smuggle guns in from the United States. It is illegal to be in the possession of guns that have been stolen from law-abiding Canadian gun owners. It is illegal to murder police officers and steal their duty firearm.
It is illegal to impersonate a police officer.
It is illegal. That's true. But you can have all the accoutrements. There's no law that prevents you from having a vehicle that looks like an RCMP cruiser right down to the light bar. As long as you don't turn the lights on and violate the Highway Traffic Act, there is no law that prevents you from having something that looks identical to a police cruiser.
Yeah, and even if you do kit it out with like actual legit police logos and the proper lights that cops have and the siren and the thing, you can still legally own it. You just can't drive it on the road. Because if it looks...
I thought it was just the light. I thought you just... Well, I guess it's just you can't turn red and blue lights on the road. You probably still have laws around like things that look like police cars.
Yeah, so like if it looks like a legit cruiser and says RCMP on the side, even if you don't have like the red and blue...
that's probably like the whole impersonating thing.
Yeah, you start getting into the impersonating, but you're allowed to own it. But
I was thinking more of the Highway Traffic Act. Yeah.
Like if you have logos that are fairly reminiscent but not really, or it's like, you know, a cop car from a movie, but it looks like a real cop car and all, it's totally fine. You can drive that on the road. But yeah, you start getting into that impersonating thing. But like, there's nothing illegal about owning an old cop car and decking it out however you want. Nothing.
Well, and this is part of my thing with it. There is no law that would stop any of this. Because if shitty people want to go out and commit murder, they're going to go out and commit murder.
I do have one gun law, though, that might help. If we adopt a Switzerland approach where everyone needs to have a rifle in their house. I can't say that it will help, but it might help.
I wonder how many people like I don't know Nova Scotia, but I wonder how many people.
Well, I met Nova Scotia once.
I wonder how many people had firearms at home, and didn't even being the Canadian. It's called the Canadian mentality.
Okay, so
didn't even think about using it to defend themselves.
Strap on your tinfoil, and this is like somebody read the legal disclaimer. This isn't legal advice. We're not lawyers. This is just an entertainment podcast. We don't do this for fun or profit. We do this for fun, not for profit. Like nothing.
But
we
we'll
can say
gladly
here.
Do it for profit if you guys send us more money.
Like, again, this is an entertainment podcast. Everything we talk about is satire. This is for legal purposes. I'm required to say that this is a joke.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So I have been reading on the Book of Faces that there have been several occasions where people in these small hamlets in Nova Scotia were on the phone with the RCMP saying that they have this guy like in the sights of their deer rifle and like they can stop this now, and the RCMP dispatch is like, no, don't shoot him. But I read that
the same thing. I heard the same thing after the Moncton shooting. I don't know.
And I wouldn't like it's reasonably rural part of Nova Scotia. It would surprise me if these guys have like a deer gun that they keep around.
And this is the problem, because I've been seeing like the same or very similar posts where it's like it is been certified by eyewitnesses that, you know, so and so had and that, and it's like, okay, great. But these people, if they actually used a gun, like there was one where he's like, he was kicking the door in and I said that I've got a gun and he fucked off. Okay, great. Like if that's true, that's amazing, and I'm glad that that person was able to defend their family or their property or whatever. You know, that's exactly how things should be. But that person needs to come forward publicly and tell everyone that that was what saved their life. Because without having actual people coming forward and saying that, all of the Facebook posts don't mean jack shit. Not that the person coming forward will actually mean a whole lot, because it's Canada and it's not a serious country, despite what other people on the internet think.
I don't think they'd anyone would give them the time of day. Anyone listens to. But
at least we and the 4 people listening would have the satisfaction of knowing that it's true.
P.S. We're up to 12 right now.
Amazing. Nice. Tripled our numbers.
So thank you all for logging in on both your phone and your laptop.
Yeah. and to your mom for doing the same thing. We appreciate that.
Yes, in my very best Marky Mark, say hello to your mother for me. Yeah, so nothing that no law will stop this. Crazy people be crazy, shitbags be shitbags. People that commit murder. Hey, Benny, you're up on your Bible-y type stuff. What'd Cain use?
Stone. Actually, I don't think they said what he did. But
the popular theory goes
that it's a ton all over the place, because at that point they didn't know how to kill people, so they just kept going until he was done, because you know where the
stabbing him a ton all over. I mean, like that's machine gun theory right there. Shoot him a lot.
Yeah.
Stab him a lot. But I mean, like, this thing is like, we're not going to legislate rocks, but I mean, you could kill somebody you could kill somebody with a rock if you felt so inclined, right? Like you can run somebody
over
with
wasn't like a rock, jawbone, or I don't know, whatever it was pretty primitive because guns weren't invented then.
Yeah.
Right, but that's what I mean. Like we're not going to like ban other things. Like no new law, no existing law is going to stop people from committing murder.
Well, I mean, because of the careful, because don't say we won't, because like look at the UK. I mean, you can't even have a knife with a point on it anymore.
Right, and definitely no one gets shot in the UK or stabbed or otherwise murdered or bludgeoned.
We're all going to be stuck carrying narwhals.
Tusked.
Yeah, that's all we're going to be allowed to carry. Blunted ones, of course, because someone's now been stabbed with one. Sure, it was the shitbag, but someone has still been stabbed with one, and so
right. But I mean, I guess if you have a good social distancing tool, narwhal tusk is long.
Yeah, if you can find one.
They're expensive, though.
Yeah, but worth it.
Well, I wonder more or less than an STI.
Well, I mean, I'm glad that you set your sights a little bit higher than a knockoff, knockoff Uzi, a knockoff MP5.
Yeah. I wonder if you can get a Turkish narwhal tusk.
Yeah. So, no gun law is going to change this. Nothing is going to, and of course, the government says that we need to be patient. We need to wait for the RCMP to do their investigation. We need to find out what happened, and then literally out of the other side of their mouth, the head of our government is saying that we need to ban military-style assault weapons. But we still don't know which guns, aside from the pistol that was stolen from the police officer that was killed. We still don't know what other firearms were used in this event.
But I mean, they're already setting up. I mean, the run for the next election with all of this thing, and like, because of the stupid COVID thing and all of that, like, they've said that like, well, Parliament can only talk about COVID stuff, so like, it'll rely on the other party's appetite as to whether they want to take on the gun control debate and do something about it. So they've already kind of set it up so that like, if they fail, it's the other party's fault and not theirs. And so that way, when they run into another election, which will likely be coming soon, that's when they're going to go, oh, these guys wouldn't let us get gun control through, so you have to vote for us, and it's going to become a wedge issue like it was this last time around. We got to vote us in again so we can get this done. That's my prediction.
I mean, I feel like that's just like how many elections has that been one of the liberal policy platform pieces has been like gun control.
Yeah.
We need more gun laws.
Yeah.
Because we don't have enough gun laws. But hey, during a pandemic, we also let all the criminals out of jail. I mean, asterisks, they didn't let all the criminals out of jail, just a lot of them.
Yeah. And some of them got out not because of the COVID thing, but because of other weird loopholes. Like the pedophiles on the loose in Hamilton right now. Good job,
tune in
legal
next
system.
week when hopefully we get into that too, because
good job, legal system.
I have a 50-cent solution to that problem that is probably not going to be popular, but would be highly effective.
You can buy a lot of rope for 50 cents.
I mean, I guess rope's more reusable. I was going somewhere else with that. Let's go into some other.
Well, just to head back, Narwhal Tusk legally procured his $650 on Kijiji.
Oh,
and
so like
that's
less than an
cool.
SK, like that's less than 2 SKSs.
That's quite reasonable, yeah.
And for the Albertans, Samson did use a jaw of a donkey, but he used it on a lion, I believe. Actually, no, you're right. Never mind. Sorry, my mistake. Sorry. I take it back.
Samson used the jawbone of an ass
On the Philistines.
Yeah, but I mean, I was talking about Cain and Abel, but I mean, same idea, because you're probably our most like biblically studied person.
That's
true. Maybe.
Well, I mean, the competition is Gavin and I.
Yeah, I mean, at least when it comes to Old Testament stuff.
Yeah, Old Testament. Yeah. Okay, I will definitely claim to.
Well, I don't know.
Know a little bit about
biblical, rabbinical. I don't know. Take your pick.
Yeah.
Old Testament and Talmud.
There you go.
That's still more than. I mean, I felt like I did pretty good to know who Samson was, and Cain, and Abel, and that there was a rock.
Yeah. Samson's the guy with the hair, right?
Yes.
But, he certainly wouldn't be losing his strength at this time because there's no barbers open. That's all I have to say about that.
Yep.
Oh, my.
So, moving on.
I mean, that's kind of my I want to go into some other impersonating police officers news. It's local to Southern Ontario. Well, and one other thing going back to Nova Scotia at the end of this with the RCMP. But I mean, my whole take on this, having gone through the aftermath of this spree killing and the news, it's the very, very small amount of news that's come out over the last week and a little bit. Basically, the government doesn't know what happened. The federal police force doesn't know what happened. And we have multiple consistent failures of the RCMP. And again, not like crapping on individual members, because like I'm sure policing is a challenging and difficult job. But I'm also sure that this is an institutional failure of our federal police force. The equestrian enthusiasts should be disbanded at this point, in my opinion. They are not providing a valuable service. I don't see how they can continue to operate in good faith at this point, because they're like this is tragic.
Maybe it's a local issue.
I mean, it might be a liberal issue, but
local. And I mean like Moncton.
Who appointed the RCMP commissioner, though? Who appointed all these top brass RCMP officers?
Yeah.
But you keep seeing these failings in the Maritimes. And okay.
Well,
before I start, I'm not throwing stones at the Maritimes. I'm just saying.
What do we say about stones, bro?
When did Moncton happen? When did the Moncton shooting happen? Four RCMP officers dead. And now this
12, I think, 2012.
Was it that long ago?
I don't know. We talked about it in a show, didn't we? Has the show been going on that long? No.
Yeah, we're at like we're almost at 5 years, I think.
2014.
We're almost at 5 years? That's got to be a typo.
Well, we started when Trudeau came into power, and this is year 1 of his second term.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, like, I don't know if I would say that it's always an East Coast thing.
No, I don't.
Maybe it is, but the RCMP does not draw necessarily from local populace. Like, 'cause anyone in Canada can apply to become RCMP. Everyone goes to depot, and then you get assigned to wherever you're going. And I'm sure that people want to go back to like the area they're familiar with or the area where their family's from.
And obviously, like, local culture will influence the people that are there. And if you've been there long enough, obviously you're more influenced by it. But like, I wouldn't say that it's an East Coast problem.
What my point is that there is a commonality, and why not look into and see what's causing it? I am not blaming the people who live in the Maritimes. I'm not blaming the RCMP in the Maritimes. I'm not blaming the RCMP brass of the Maritimes. I'm merely saying that there seems to be some kind of pattern here. Why don't we try and find out what that is?
I don't know. Whoever is responsible for all of these shortcomings, though, should go to that city that Tyler was talking about. Or I guess it's not really a city, but like a little town somewhere in the U.S. What was it, Enumclaw or something like that?
Yes, Enumclaw. You should Google that. It's a good time.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Look up Enumclaw for the RCMP and do yourself some light reading. Mike on YouTube points out the Moncton incident was June 4th, 2014.
Yeah, I also want to just take another one of his comments about Parliament and all of this and that. I actually tuned in to watch their live session the other day, and they were talking about something and voting. I don't even know really what it was. I was kind of just scrolling while I was taking a deuce, and it popped up on the feed. So I was like, oh, let's see how this online Parliament thing is going. It is even more of a shit show than the live, like, sitting in person thing, because
that is going to be like the worst Zoom call ever.
Oh, dude, it was brutal because like I guess the Speaker of the House or whatever that like tallies the votes and stuff like that. Like, not everyone's audio was working, so like they were voting on something. I don't even know what it was, but like he can't hear one person, and the person is like giving a thumbs up or whatever, and he's like, "I'll just assume that's a yes." And then Rempel's like, "No, we can't do that. We can't just assume. Like, you need to have an actual audible yay or nay on this. Like, we can't set precedent of like just a thumbs up being okay or not, And then one person got missed completely. So like he'd already tallied the votes and said, "Oh, this is going to be a thing. We've got X for and X against, so it's a done thing." And then someone's like, "Actually, you didn't ask me. I haven't voted yet." Like, so it's a total shit show.
Oh, good. So the government is continuing to operate like the government. That's
yeah,
nice.
But possibly even at a lower efficiency and standard.
The government, which governs least, governs best, right?
Yeah, but when you only have like 11 people or whatever it is on a call, you think you should be able to keep track of it.
Nah, I've been on a call with 11 people. I stopped listening.
Fair.
I want to see if we can get into Kaz's comments. Is the RCMP pissing off the East Coasters? And you never see the RCMP in Southern Ontario. That's I like that. Well done. Or the RCMP go around with an omnipotent attitude. You don't see RCMP in Southern Ontario very often. The only real place you see the RCMP in Ontario is in Ottawa, because they guard the hill. You don't see the RCMP in Southern Ontario. Like, you may occasionally see them at events in Toronto. Yeah, like at events.
But it's a what's it called? A ceremonial position. It's not actually. They're not policing.
Yeah, and I think that's what Benny was getting at the very top of the show, was that we are in a reasonably unique position as Canadians in that our federal police force, our federal law enforcement agency, also occasionally fills municipal police roles, which is not
provincial and municipal.
Yeah, we don't have that in Ontario, because in Ontario you have
the OPP.
You generally have a municipal police force, then you have the Ontario Provincial Police. And I believe I've been corrected before on the show saying that the RCMP do not operate on Ontario except at the federal level. They do not enforce local laws. I think that duty falls entirely to the OPP. And I have said on the show before that I thought in Northern Ontario that was different, and somebody just corrected me on that.
Yeah,
So
I believe that is true, but I mean, there might be still some areas where they're
more involved.
yes, um, but I mean, it's odd that you have a federal agency that has municipal roles, provincial roles, and purely ceremonial roles.
Well,
It's
somebody
funny,
has
though,
to ride the
'cause
fucking horses.
Do they though?
the RCMP does have a good international reputation.
Well, yes, and Canadians in general have a good international reputation, but I mean,
But I think that's more based on like
unpopular
the
opinion.
individual members versus the organization as a whole, which is kind of what we're getting at. Like, it's not because, I mean, obviously any large organization is going to have good people and shitty people, but
Some more than others.
a lot of the time these failures aren't necessarily specifically because of one person and their actions. It's
and that's what I'm trying to draw with all of these various stories. Is there has been a number of misleading releases to the press, releases to the media. There's been a number of failures at various levels with the RCMP, like shooting up a fire hall for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
That should be cause for concern.
Yeah.
Them not having established a proper timeline for the 911 call and when their officers originally arrived on the very first scene, and then why it took them like 10 hours to do anything after that.
Yeah, like if they did stuff, then they need to let people know. And if like the guy with the fake police car copied the number off of a real police car, and that's the one that they saw parked at the fire hall and had reason to believe that that was the shooter, then we need to know that so that they didn't just like light up a fire hall for no reason.
Right, or like the fact that they didn't use any sort of emergency alerting system except for Twitter to like let people know that this dude was driving around, and then they didn't let them know that he had been driving around in a police car.
I heard
that would have taken too many characters.
I heard U.S. citizens were notified
Again,
by text.
That doesn't surprise me. We're not a serious country, and for whatever reason, no alerts went out on any of our alerting systems except for Twitter.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you hear about a kid that was missing like 14 hours ago in an area that's not where you are or even close to where you are.
Yes.
But when an actual incident that has some immediate need
the
goes
CIA
on.
is definitely doing their job if they're, keeping track of random shootings in Nova Scotia.
I mean, we disbanded the Airborne Regiment for less than this. I think it might be time to seriously consider looking at disbanding the RCMP. I mean, I have cast much shade on the Queen's Cowboys in the years that we have been doing this podcast, and I have been very critical of law enforcement at times on this show. But I think that this is a failing of spectacular proportions.
How would
to
you
the
feel
point
about
where
Boyd?
it's just
How would you
it's
feel
not
about
needed.
Boyd, and what's stopping the same problems that plagued the RCMP with plaguing the new
you beef up municipal or provincial where needed, and at least then it's smaller organizations that are more localized rather than federal across the country.
And that's kind of, I think, like the local government is the best government. The government that you interact with and the government that you deal with day to day is the most likely to have your interests at heart, because they live where you live. They have to deal with you in the long term. Like some guy gets sent from Victoria, BC to go to Truro, New Brunswick Truro, Nova Scotia for a couple of years for his tour. Like, he's not invested in the local community. Somebody that comes up there and joins the municipal police force and plans to retire there and raise a family there, like, he's invested into that community. So I see your point, Benny. It doesn't outright solve the problem, but I think it localizes the problem, and I think it is more likely to
easier to do
improve the situation. Well, that's the thing, is it is more. It is because it becomes a local problem, because it becomes if you have a problem with the RCMP, how do you fix the RCMP? You have to lobby the federal government. If there's a problem with your local police force, what do? You call your town council member.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean,
it's closer to you.
Yeah. If it's more localized, say, I mean, the RCMP has an issue that's caused by the percentage of French-speaking people in the organization, which then fucks up everything for everyone else. You don't have that problem if there is no Quebec involved in the Ontario and every other province in it, right? I mean, especially if a lot of things are based on population centers and all of that, that skews how things are done in rural Nova Scotia when you're applying nonsense that happens in Ontario and Quebec and other places. So if it was more localized, you don't get that. It's the like Andrew's saying, the guy that grew up there or at least moved there and wants to be there, that's dealing with these issues in their own communities.
It's not just a 4-year duty assignment or however long they get stationed at some detachment somewhere to go and deal with till they get moved on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know the ins and outs of how the RCMP gets sent where the RCMP gets sent, but my theory
pretty sure
is
it has to do with available horses.
Nay. No, but I think that we don't really. It doesn't change anything outright, Benny. I think it makes it a more local problem, and it makes it easier for you to deal with as a taxpayer. That you can go and lobby your local government to deal with your local police force, rather than trying to get them to do something with the RCMP. Because how do you lobby the federal government?
Well, I mean,
in an ideal world, sure, but we talked about that before. I think that you should be able to elect everything from your city dog catcher to the secretary to the people that every aspect of government in my mind should be electable, because we should be able to hold these people to account. We should be able to recall them. We should be able to remove them from office. But if you're going to have a police force, I have no problem with the police, the individual police. I have no problem with the system of policing. I have a problem with the institutional bureaucracy that has demonstrably led to people's deaths in this case. Right, because the leftists scream and cry, and the doctors for gun control and policy event and everything. We have to ban military-style assault weapons. It might save one life. We have to ban the RCMP. It might save one life.
They didn't save 20. How many? 21.
Well, and if the RCMP were not involved, I'm not saying that any of those people might still be alive, and that is not the thing to take away from this. No. But if any municipal police force had the gumption to act effectively and send an alert to their area to say, hey, we think we have an active shooter problem.
Yeah, maybe
everybody should probably go inside right now.
Yeah, maybe there's less, bureaucratic red tape to cut through when it's a local police department that wants to put out an alert, right? Whereas if you have a federal agency, there's going to be X number more layers. That you have to get through to do that. And maybe that's the problem. And it's something simple like that, right? Where you can just go, okay, well, this is the guy that you call it. His name is Stan. So if you need to send an alert, you just call him and skip those steps. We don't know until this book comes out, but
it's highly speculative how that system works because we're not privy to that. But I mean, the
smaller
theory is smaller is better. It's more nimble. It's more agile. You can pivot faster on these things because you're not dealing with federal bureaucracy, which unfortunately I think that's what the RCMP has turned into, is another federal bureaucracy.
Yeah.
Speaking of, let's impersonate federal bureaucracies. Well, I guess in this case it's provincial bureaucracies, but 2 articles in Ontario, one in the Hamilton Spectre. It's bizarre. It's bizarre. OPP doesn't know how many fake corona cops are out there. Here's how to protect yourself. And in the Guelph Mercury Tribune, yes, that's a real website. Yes, it's really a newspaper in Guelph. There's a police imposter in Wellington County, and the OPP are warning the public about him. So
you can't arrest him?
on the heels of a person in Nova Scotia impersonating a member of the RCMP and killing a whole bunch of people, apparently there are people driving around in southern Ontario doing this.
Well, I guess reports of this have been coming out prior to that event, but I guess nobody really took it all that seriously. Because, everyone was complaining that, a cop stopped me and was asking for my papers for essential working and traveling during COVID. And then the cops actually had to say, that's not us.
Yeah, an individual that appeared to be a plainclothes police officer and identified himself as a member of the OPP was stopping people and asking, papers, please.
For all we know, he's just a protester.
Okay. Anyway, this happened middle of April 14th to 17th in Fergus and Pushlinch, Ontario. So that's sort of near Guelph, Kitchener area. Pushlinch is right next to Cambridge. So
really nice restaurant right on the lake there that has excellent wings.
Yeah, strongly recommend the restaurant on the lake there. The name of which escapes me now. It's not called the Boathouse. It's something.
The old Marina restaurant.
The old Marina. That's it. Thank you. Yes.
Very creative.
Get the cheeseburger.
Yeah, the
Don't
wings
tell them
are
I
good,
sent
too.
you, but definitely get the
Yeah,
cheeseburger.
the burger's good. The wings are good. Yeah, and the back deck is awesome.
So the OPP advised that they are not conducting random traffic stops of motorists to check for their Corona-19 paperwork. And this individual was later arrested, I think, on April the 25th.
So they did arrest somebody, but it's not that same guy. The guy they did arrest.
Do I have it mixed up? Is that the Wellington one?
Well, there's a couple, so that's the problem, right? There's a bunch of people, it seems, going out. So there's one guy that I guess has like a plate carrier or bulletproof vest with police on it. And then the other guy had an SUV with a push bar and lights.
Right, okay, so that's the dude that they...
got arrested.
That's the dude that they arrested. So the dude in Fergus was also April 14th, which is the same day as the guy with the push bar and the light bar on his SUV with the ballistic vest and the word police on it. So he had like Velcro patch or whatever, some sort of an ID panel on his plate carrier that said police. The suspect described as 30 to 40-year-old white male, short dark hair, brush cut, unshaven. Black long-sleeve t-shirt, ballistic vest emblazoned with police. Driving a black four-door sedan with a strobe light on the dash, a small aerial antenna, and a push bar. And this individual was the one that was arrested. Both those took place on April 14th. So I don't know what's in the water in Southern Ontario right now, but yeah, people driving around impersonating cops and not doing a half bad job of it.
Yeah.
So I guess, I mean...
Well, I mean, everybody's on edge now, right? Because it happened, and now, so anything you see...
Well, everybody is on edge, and the spec, the Hamilton Spectre does have, like, some pretty reasonable, instructions for what to do. If you're being pulled over by someone that you don't think is a cop, or that you think is a cop that is not acting lawfully, or that you are for some reason otherwise afraid for your safety, pull over in a populated, well-lit area, call 911, don't get out of your vehicle. Obviously, don't get out of your vehicle. You've been pulled over by the police, whether they're the real police or the fake police. Don't get out of your car. That's how you get shot. Lock your door. Again,
or right
no
by
kidding.
a car,
Right? Like, don't do that. Lower your window low enough to pass your license and registration. I'm going to go with not doing that until after I'm done on the phone with 911, but okay.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And ask the officer for further identification. Again, like, I don't feel like the order of operations in the spec is right, but like the
all
idea
the things
is
are
solid.
Right. Yeah.
The big thing is, like, if you think it's not a cop, or you think it's a cop that's not acting lawfully, or you otherwise have some sort of a problem with them, call 911. Vehicle number, badge number, anything like that, and work it out with the dispatcher.
Yeah. Tell them where you are, and if you need to, like, not be pulled over in a dark part of the highway, and you want to, like, take the next off ramp into a well-lit gas station, tell the operator that you're doing that. It's fine.
Yeah, they can relay it. Like, they have radios and phones and stuff. They'll
if it's a real cop, they'll relay it, and it's fine. If it's a fake cop,
keep going.
They'll tell you. then you just don't pull over and you just keep going. Yeah.
Well, and I think this doesn't only apply to traffic stops, right? Like, if somebody comes up to your house and starts banging on your door and says it's the police, it's like, okay, great. How about you go wait down the end of the driveway and what's your name and badge number again? Because I'm calling that one in and checking.
Yeah, and again, because this podcast is for entertainment and nothing we say is legal advice. That's right. The same time that you start going to your safe and unlocking things and, taking the rounds out of the side saddle of your shotgun or loading that magazine that's certainly not sitting there, already loaded in the safe, although legal. You
got to go beyond the letter of the law.
Yeah.
That's right. I would be getting on the phone with 911 and being like, hey, so Officer Do-Right's at my house. Do you guys have an Officer Do-Right? Is he at my house?
Yeah.
Because
I mean, like, maybe if you've been throwing a crazy wild, like, Corona lockdown party, then, like, you maybe don't need to do that because there's a reason they're at your house. But if you've just been, like, super quiet all day and not, like, aren't being a nuisance and a cop's just knocking at your door for no reason, maybe you want to give them a call.
Yeah,
see what's up.
I feel like that at this point, the way that our society is, and the fact that there are, in the course of a week, there has now been a mass killing involving somebody dressing up like a cop and driving what appears to be a police car. There are now been multiple cases in Southern Ontario of people driving and impersonating the OPP.
Yeah, and even if not
a little
nefarious,
bit of due
it's
diligence.
still
Okay, so like whatever, you're complying, but you're complying slowly. They're just going to add a charge. They're already pulling you over.
Yeah.
You're just being diligent. And I mean, like, as long as you don't be an asshole about it, call 911 and be like, hey, sorry. Didn't know if you were a real cop or not. There's been this rash of things going around with people impersonating cops.
Yeah, I just wanted to look out for my safety and yours.
What I mean, really, like, that's the, like, go to a well-lit area off of the main, like, don't go start driving down residential streets. Like, pull over as soon as it is safe to do so.
Yeah.
But pulling over on, like, an unlit road, you know, maybe not the safest thing. Pull over under the street light.
Yeah.
Right? Pull into the cop, or pull into the cop shop. Pull into the donut shop.
Or just, like, find your local OPP detachment and just pull into there.
I mean, like, some places, I mean, I know, like, when I'm driving up to Borden for the weekend, I know where all the OPP shops are along the route. Like, I'm not probably more than 20 or 30 minutes from one. Like, they're frequent enough.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
call
sad
it in.
to say, in this day and age, better safe than sorry, right? Like,
well, and that's the thing is, like, people are impersonating police officers. I'd rather them be angry and alive than be upset and dead. Right?
Yeah.
Like, or happy and dead. How does that work? The point is, I would prefer that the actual police officer is just annoyed that I made them wait.
Yeah.
It's like, if they've already got a legitimate problem, they've already got a legitimate problem. I'm just, like, adding to the call time.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and again, like, if you were just going like 200 miles an hour on, like, you know, one of the 400 series highways in Ontario, and a cop pulled up behind you with a carry,
you deserve that stunt racing
then maybe
fine.
you don't need to call it in because you're pretty sure that's an actual cop. But yeah, if you're getting pulled over in the middle of nowhere for no reason, yeah, definitely call that one in. Like, look at your behavior first and see if your behavior warrants a cop stopping you. And if not, definitely call that in.
So, I mean, we've given out this life advice before. The question you have to ask yourself is, are you being a dick? Yeah. And if you are, you need to reevaluate some things because you shouldn't go around being a dick.
Yeah.
Don't be a dick.
And that goes to the people impersonating cops, too. That's being a dick.
That is being...
Don't be a dick. I mean, it's solid life advice. It applies in a lot of situations.
Yeah, it's really the only law we need. Don't be a dick.
Mean, maybe not like the only law, but I feel like it's pretty close.
Yeah.
We could probably polish it up a little bit, but I mean, like...
Yeah, but, like, it's more just, like...
Everything else is just the particulars.
It's just defining who is and is not being a dick more than anything else.
Think about it. You know, like, just DVD.
Like, it's... Yeah.
Tune in next week when I have somebody make some patches that say, don't be a dick.
Oh. Or, you know, like those...
Evan, I know you're listening. I have a great idea for a patch, buddy. It could literally, you could literally, I know our buddy, I know our buddy that makes patches is always looking for great ideas. You could literally draw a penis and write, don't be a dick on it. Because I know he wants an excuse to sell a penis patch.
Those what would Jesus do bracelets? Don't be a dick bracelet. We could make millions.
That's right. Don't be a dick.
Yeah, but seriously though, anyone listening, don't steal our idea. And if you do, and you actually make them, please at least mail enough for the show to have them for free.
Yeah,
that's right. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Brent asked if it wasn't a real cop, what would you do? I mean, I think the answer is it depends, as it does with most things.
What side of the door is he on?
Well, and I mean that's the like if you call. Okay, so like I'm driving down the county road near where I live or whatever, or like on one of my regular routes of travel, and I see flashing lights, and I was like, driving the speed limit with the cruise control on like a little old lady because that's how I normally drive my truck because it's fuel efficient that way.
I don't have that kind of patience. Go on.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, yeah, but like the highway between my office and my house is an 80. Do I really need to go faster than 80? Not really. So I just set the cruise at 80 and I, let it go. So if I get pulled over while I'm like driving down the road, singing to Iron Maiden or whatever. I'm not
Yeah,
in Quebec, so it's
yeah, you're not gonna get pulled over because you're not in Quebec. Yeah.
I'm not in Quebec, so singing along with the radio is allowed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm probably calling that one in. Somebody at my house. Yeah, I don't throw a lot of like wild keggers anymore, or any less. So probably like not getting a noise complaint. So yeah, again, like
Yeah, it's really context
calling that in.
specific. Like, I mean, if you have someone that knocks on the door and you go look at the little peephole and it looks like it's a legit cop and like everything seems normal, you're less likely to maybe call it in. Not that I'm giving advice to people that plan on impersonating cops, but like situation dictates everything. Like,
well, and it also dictates the response, because if you call 911 and you're like, hey, unit following me at this mile marker on this highway, why am I being pulled over? What's this about? Is this actually a cop trying to pull me over? And they're like, what cop? Well, I'm like, well, I guess I have a problem and I need an actual cop now. So please send actual police.
Yeah. Also, P.S. I am now going to start speeding. FYI.
Yeah, I will now be exceeding the posted speed limit and driving somewhat recklessly.
Yeah.
Please send actual police.
And I guess he's asking, like, would we send, lead down range? Like, well, if a cop's knocking on my door, no. But, like, if somebody kicks in my door and starts sending it my direction, I'm really not going to be spending a whole lot of time to figure out who that person is.
Well, I guess that gets into the other thing, because like anybody can shout, police, right? And we've seen that with no-knock raids, and I think we're going to see that more if we start to get more red flag laws in this country, or that they start to treat our laws as red flag laws, where they do no-knock middle of the night warrants.
Wellness checks.
Yeah, wellness checks. So the local equestrian enthusiasts kicking your door and shoot your dog, and then you and the rest of your family, like, I feel like that's a bad time, and I don't want to be a part of it. But I mean, like, also shoot, shovel, and shut up maybe is a place.
Yeah. But like, I mean, at that point in time, like, I don't think anyone at this panel is doing anything that would, at least currently, warrant that response. So if that were to happen, I mean, that's almost immediate. Like, this is not the real police.
Well, and again, like, I feel like we shouldn't be giving tips out to criminals, but like, anyone can shout, "It's the police."
Yeah.
And that doesn't make it believable.
Yeah.
Right? Because I feel like I feel like we should probably just have a law against no-knocks, but I'm sure that there are situations that I am not aware of because I don't do law enforcement as a profession where like no-knock warranting something is like the appropriate solution to a legal or like a lawful problem.
Yeah, to like actual shitbags.
Right. Well, I guess my concern is that certain equestrian enthusiasts may consider us to be actual shitbags.
I was listening to someone once, and they
only on the internet.
They were saying how firearm offenses, I don't remember where this was, but it was basically, you're not, like, the reason for a no-knock raid is to get rid of evidence. And you're not flushing your bolt carrier group down the toilet or swallowing.
Not with that attitude, you're not.
Well, yeah, they're designed so that the element of surprise is there, and people don't have time to get rid of things, or it's a crucial safety thing where it's like, well, if we knock on the door, that gives them time to get their guns and be violent. Whereas if we just like
stay strapped or get clapped is what I would say to those people hypothetically.
Throw open a door and throw a couple of flashbangs in there and be done with it. Like officer safety versus shitbag safety, right? Like there's a lot of things like that play in, but
that's the part of the concern that I have as we get to the more militarized police and we get to the more call it Venezuelan style government.
Yeah,
we're also buying ARs or M16s in 7.5?
5.7.
5.7. And no, not that particular aspect, but I mean, like, everybody that disagrees with the official narrative is like a political enemy of the state.
Which would be kind of cool though for the range though, because like it would just drop your brass straight down into a bucket.
I looked at it once and I'm like,
we don't need to focus on ARs and 5.7. That's
Sorry, that should have been for
Totally
last
wrong.
week's
I'm
episode.
sorry
yeah.
I missed last week's episode.
Yeah.
That's fair. No, I guess that's the. I don't know what the. I don't know what that line is, and I don't know that I want to figure out where that line is because I'm sure there is some line between like officer safety and my rights, and I don't know where that is. And I'm sure that there are cases where no-knock raids are like the right thing to do, but I also don't like living in a place where no-knock raids are a thing.
I feel like you'd have to have gone down a path that none of us have or plan on ever going down. And you have to go really far down that path.
I don't think we have to go that far down that path because I'm sure that there have been a lot of people in a lot of hostile governments running their country where a few years prior to that government being in that position, they would not have been the people that would have been getting no-knock raided. But then they're like, Einsatzgruppen group and is showing up and putting them in cattle cars, or like the Venezuelan police with the funny football masks are showing up and like shooting them with ARs and chambered in 5.7 because they're disagreeing with the official narrative that's being put out by the government. And I don't.
Or they ate the tasty zoo animals first.
Right, and I don't think we are there now, but I also don't think we are that far away from having a heavily militarized police state where if you disagree with the official narrative, like I mean, we already have that now. Look at what the Liberal government is saying with social media, that if you criticize the World Health Organization or you put out information that is counter to what the World Health Organization is saying, that they're going to try and get Facebook to censor you. They're going to encourage Facebook to limit your ability to use their platform.
Yeah.
So like we're not that far from the level of wrongthink where I think that we might see.
All it's going to take is Trudeau pushing, the gun ban, and then trying to limit a few more things, and we're there. Like, so it's only a handful of regulations away from that time, really.
Not to downplay it, but I think society's always on the cusp of going into the.
Oh, absolutely. But
it's only a couple strokes of the pen, and we've lost.
But I think we're
6 meals away from the apocalypse, something like that.
I think we're closer than we've been, though, I think is the problem, right? Like, I mean, if Trudeau had gotten his way with the Emergencies Act, it would have been even that much closer. And I mean, I think he's still trying to push for it, right? And I think that might be his way to get some of the things that he wants, even if it's temporary, but it'll be hard to claw that stuff back. I mean,
I looked it up. It's 9 meals from anarchy is the quote that I was looking for.
Because I mean, like, who would ever have thought that the government could say who can and can't work, right?
Well, I mean, like us for years, but
yeah, I mean, we're a special group, which is why we're going to be the ones to get no-knock repeats. But
that's kind of my thing is like you're how many steps away from getting no-knock rated? Well, like I mean, we're not saying to violently overthrow the government, but I mean like we're maybe questioning the official party line a little bit. Okay, well, questioning the official party line is like no longer allowed. And this is now wrong thing. So like, how many steps are we really from like getting no-knock rated by the Queen's Cowboys?
Yeah.
Right, like I don't think it's likely to happen. I don't think we're like a group that the police is likely to target. But at the same time, it's like I'm not going along with the official narrative because I don't believe this nonsense. I don't think that like this level of massive incompetence by the RCMP can't have been.
Yeah.
Normally, I would be somebody who's like, well, yeah, don't attribute to malice what you can attribute to incompetence. But in this case, like the level of incompetence is so staggering that I am actually like in disbelief. Like, how can you be this bad at it?
Yeah.
How can the federal law enforcement agency be this bad at it?
Yeah, and if it's if it's not the failure of one person, it's institutionalized, and therefore, it needs to be just like you deal with cancer, and you just cut it out, and you cut out.
If it's an institutional problem, they disbanded the airborne for less than this.
Yep.
So, like, disband the regiment, except in this case, I guess it's disband the RCMP.
Yep. Yeah, all those people can hand out their resumes to the local police forces that are going to need that much more policing.
And again, I don't see a problem with like your average law enforcement officer, your average RCMP member. I think this is an institutional problem with the management, the leadership.
It's the mechanism. Yeah.
None of our complaints were that ex-officer acted in a wrong fashion because he followed RCMP policy. All of our complaints are about how the RCMP as a entity handled this situation.
Yeah. That's my thing is like as
minus
an organization,
the shooting of a fire station.
But even that could be down to
could be an institutional problem. I mean, it's likely a training issue. It could have been a comms problem. Like there's a lot of things that explain that, but until we know what the actual issue was, I don't think it was the negligence. Pardon me. I don't think it was the malice of the individual officers. I think it may have been negligence.
Poor training, poor communication. Yeah.
There's a lot of factors that can go into that, and I don't want to second guess other people's decisions that I was not present for.
Especially a high stress one, right? Like at that point, they're aware that this is going on. But
I think this is an institutional problem, and like again, disband the RCMP. Like just disband the RCMP.
Yeah.
I should get an album. I would call it Disband the RCMP.
Would your sequel be
BIS banned RCMP?
Yeah, but would the sequel be just defund the UN?
Right after the World Health Organization.
Well, I mean that would solve both problems, really.
And there goes our Facebook memberships. Shucks.
Well, no, it's fine because we didn't say that the coronavirus is caused by 5G. It's fine. We're still allowed on Facebook.
Tune in next week to find out how the coronavirus is caused by. No, wait, what? Who put that in the show notes?
No.
Actual show notes. Getting back on track, although sort of, not really. I'm gonna slide the article in the CTV to next week. Tune in next week to find out how the RCMP lost a gun. Again. No shock there. Yeah. TACOM 2020 apparently still September 11th to 13th. Use our ticket link in the show notes. We get $1 that pays to help us get drunk, and I would like to get drunk.
Yeah, we'll be far more entertaining. And as the Meaford Long Range Steel Challenge, that's the same weekend, has been put off, there is a really good likelihood that a good chunk of us will be at TACOM because we've got nowhere else to be.
I will have something else to do. I just don't know what it is yet. I'll find something.
Well, you got time. Seriously, though, use the link. We need your money. I will be there and drinking heavily. I'll be drinking for two if Andrew's not there.
Well, we can't have that.
Think of all the free booze you're missing, Andrew.
It's not free when you have to do tricks for it. Come on.
We can carpool.
Well, I mean, I appreciate that. What's the line for Leonard Kitty? I really have to get the audio fixed on the computer because it's like, what's Wayne say in that episode? Come on, do a fucking trick or something. You're fucking useless, bud. Sing us a song of your people. Or no, sing us a song or something.
Yeah. And that's when you cue the music to Rhodesians Never Die.
Well, they don't. It's
true.
Benny, where can everybody find you on the internet?
You can find me at bennylewis.ca. Whole Corona thing threw everything in a mix. We're supposed to be getting more product. We'll see when that actually shows up when we add to the website. But
yeah, the dollar sucks, and so does coronavirus, eh?
Yeah.
How about that economy? Oh,
what economy?
yeah.
Economy of motion.
I feel I feel like that should have been funnier, and it just
it was not.
Because we're all on lockdown. There is no motion. We're not allowed to go anywhere.
Oh well, now making that joke. Never mind, Gavin. Where can everyone find you on the internet?
You can find me on the grams at Urbex_GTA or in line at the local grocery store to get my weekly rations.
As always, my name is Andrew. You can find me at RagnarokTactical.ca. We still have some stuff, although, like I said, dollar sucks, economy in motion. Or no, wait, that's not how that works.
Economy of motion.
Buy some stuff from Ragnarok Tactical. Use the discount code Patriot at checkout. Save yourself some money. Shipping, $10 flat rate anywhere in Canada. Doesn't matter what the order is. If it fits, it ships, and it'll fit. The trucks are big. Don't worry.
Yeah.
For all of our listeners, oh wait, I almost forgot. I have to apologize to Rod Giltaca. He had nothing nice to say about Nova Scotia, so we disinvited him from this week's episode. I hear BC is beautiful, though.
Yeah.
We value your opinions. Please send your feedback to CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. No, wait, that's wrong. Please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback to submit feedback, or you can email us directly, feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. Let us know what you think.
The part of us valuing your opinion is also not right.
Well, I mean, like, I appreciate
We appreciate it. Yeah,
I appreciate getting feedback. And I'm sorry, Todd, we keep doing longer shows than I plan because we get to like 10:15. I'm like, great, we've got time for Todd's feedback. And then we run out of time. So I'm going to try again next week, buddy. I promise it's coming. I know there's some people that sent some emails.
Oh, you're gonna get your feedback sucks because you don't read my feedback.
I know.
Andrew. Yeah.
For the people that have submitted two, I will get to them. We just an hour and 45 minutes again this week. Long shows. I'm sorry.
Maybe we should do feedback at the beginning. Episode 225 is backwards day, where we just read the feedback.
You know what?
Nothing but the feedback.
Maybe you know what? Let's do it. Episode 225. Todd, buddy, tune in. Top the show. You're up.
Yep.
What did I miss? Oh yeah. For all of our patriots out there in podcast land, I would like to remind you that you are the true north, strong and free.